I supposed to sit while I'm doing this and just be all back here like this? I'd rather stand up at least. I'd like to walk out there a little bit. It sounds like we're going to have some competition with the people next door. So I'm not going to let them get the better of us. So I know, I mean, it's cheesy and maybe it's really old school, but like just while we're getting ready, everybody's familiar with the Colossus Roar standard, right? How many people here know about Colossus Roar with MAGFest? Okay, we got 4 people. All right. So I will walk everybody through this, and we are just totally going to kick their ass, okay? So the way this is going to work is that like in the old arcade game X-Men, the Colossus character, for his special attack, I'll put this away a little bit. He'll like go like this, and this ball of energy will go around him, and it'll go, ah! Okay? So, like literally, because I hear this going on at the same time, like when I count to 3, we're all going to do a Colossus Roar, okay? Is everybody ready for that? Okay, so. Wait till there's some silence. Okay, 1, 2, 3. It didn't even faze him. All right. So if they like get really loud and I get distracted and we get distracted, like we will just do a really, really loud shut the fuck up. And we'll see what they do then. And then we'll get into this big brawl. And then we'll get kicked out of MAGFest, and it'll be a ton of fun. Awesome. Well, it's close enough. 7:28, I guess. Well, what I'll do is, how many people here have seen the Prometheus movie? Gosh, man, I'm really reaching here. Have you seen the trailer for Prometheus with Guy Pearce? Okay. Because I was going to do a little bit of this. For those of you who know me, you will know that my ambition is unlimited. I will stop of nothing short of greatness, or die trying. For those of you who do not know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Peter Whalen, and if you'll permit me, I'd like to change the world. And we are the gods now. Stuff like that. Let's try another Colossus Roar. 1, 2, 3. Yes. See, that feels good. We're awake now. Okay. Oh, they're getting back at us a little bit. My name is Alexander Brandon. I'm so glad that you guys came out, especially for the people that are not going to go see GLaDOS that's having a panel or a Q&A session at the same time I am. I am honored. I really appreciate that. I'm not completely, devoid of voice work. How many people know who I am? Okay, quite a few. All right, so I'll do a little bit of a backstory, but then we'll literally start the Q&A. You can literally ask me anything. If it gets kind of dead, then I'll do my best to just wrench this microphone out, sort of walk around, and we'll just play patty cake and rock paper scissors and stuff like that, just to keep things interesting. So, but I do actually have 20 plus years in the game industry as far as knowledge goes, and funny stories, and believe me, there's funny stories in the game industry in spades. So I'll be happy to just whinge on about stuff like that. I can quote Jaws from start to finish if things get really desperate. As a matter of fact, the Fat Man, George Sanger, anybody know who that is? He's another game composer who's worked on Seventh Guest and a number of other things. He's now working at Magic Leap in Florida. At one point, he was trying to tell people at the Game Developers Conference years ago about General MIDI and how all the games could sound the same using the General MIDI standard, right? And it got so boring that at the beginning, he was prepared for that to happen, and he said, I'm going to take off my pants. And sure enough, he was like pointing something out, and he goes, all right. And he drops, he's got these white boxers with red hearts on them, and he spends the rest of the talk, actually instructing people on, general MIDI channel information in his heart-covered boxer shorts. So I'm not going to go there, but I don't know. Anyway, so yes, I've been working on games for roughly, since '94, so 22 years roughly, give or take. Starting with Tyrion, with Epic Games, then going on to Jazz Jackrabbit 2. I had one song in Jazz 1, the bonus tune. Robert Allen was very generous in order to give me that one. I didn't take credit for it, but hey, I tell people that I did that because it wasn't that great a tune, especially compared with the other stuff that Robert did. It was amazing. After that, went on to a game called Unreal that you guys might be familiar with, working on that with a number of other composers. That was amazing. Unreal Tournament was also amazing. Then Deus Ex by Ion Storm. After that, I moved to Midway, and I did some audio director work work, as well as some score with Enon Zur and Jason Graves and the gang on Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. That was a ton of fun, and those guys have gone on to, I mean, geez, Jason Graves just did, what did Jason Graves just work on? Like, I know that Austin Wintory just did an Assassin's Creed game, and he's here at the conference, and he's awesome. Jason's done Dead Space. He's done all the Dead Space games. He's a really cool guy. So yeah, there was the Midway phase of things where there's plenty of funny stories that came out of Midway, like a guy that was supposed to be a producer, used to be a sergeant that worked or served in Desert Storm, but he literally had nothing to do. So he would go to people's offices and talk about his terrible marriage, and that actually happened. Like he would sit down and say like, "Oh, my wife today, I told her that I'll bring that boyfriend of yours in front of me, and then I'll bleed him. I'll take him up to the mountain and bleed him." Like he actually, I'm not making that up. I'm really not. Love the guy. I mean, he was great as a producer when he actually had work to do. There was a real quick anecdote also from Midway. John Romero was on the team with us at the time working on Gauntlet, and there was this other designer, Terry Spear, who was somebody that worked at Interplay, and he came over to work at Midway. And super nice dude, super professional, except in one case when we were waiting for lunch at a cafe, and somehow the topic came to John Romero working there, and like he turned around and goes, "I hope they fucking fire him." And I was like, whoa, I knew the guy was infamous, but hey, And John's a real nice guy. He will tell you all day about the Apple II stuff that he worked on with Soft Disk and Dangerous Dave and what am I thinking? The Alfredo's Big Adventures. He did one of the Alfredo Big Adventures for Soft Disk. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, so after Midway there was Obsidian Entertainment, where I was lucky enough to work with BT and also Jason Graves again on Alpha Protocol. We started work on Aliens role-playing game, and that didn't get too far, which was really unfortunate. And we were going to work with, oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting names right and left, but he worked on one of the Splinter Cell games. Amon Tobin. Anybody familiar with Amon Tobin? He's an electronic artist from Canada. He's real badass, really does really cool avant-garde stuff. We were going to use him on Aliens role-playing game along with Sasha Dikikian, who's done a ton of games himself. So that was a lot of fun, but it got canceled. So moved on from there to a venture capital company called Heatwave. We released Gods and Heroes, the massively multiplayer tank of a game that sucked, but they decided to buy the property and put it out anyway. Sony had dumped it earlier. And from there to Funky Rustic, where I've been lucky enough to work on indie games like Dust and Elysian Tale with the Hyperduck guys. Love that game, love the music that the Hyperduck guys did. If you have not played Dust and Elysian Tale, go buy it and play it. It is fun as hell. It goes along with these really cool side-scrollers that are popping up all over indiedom and making amazing waves and all kinds of cool stuff. Like Ori and the Blind Forest, which I have not yet played. Please chastise me, criticize me, throw stuff at me because I haven't played Ori yet. So now I'm here doing stuff with Funky Rustic, and my whole thing is for you to have your questions answered. And are there no microphones in the audience? Are you supposed to call out your, "Hey, how'd you do that?" Seriously? Can we find a way to? Oh man, these are all on. So do we have a stand somebody could use, or I can take this off and just hand it to someone? They can put it on the floor. Because I want people to hear the questions, everybody in the audience. So, whoever has the first question, grab the dangly thing. That's not funny, is it? There you go. Yay, Alpha Protocol. Ask away.
So, a big problem that you see in video games a lot is you've got a camera, but you've also got people. So you want 3D sound, but you want them to talk. I don't know if you've seen Deadly Premonition, which is notorious for having bad sound.
Oh my God,
what's a game
Deadly
that has bad
Premonition.
sound?
I know about audioatrocities.com, but that's mostly VO.
No, but Skitch, you were talking about this one. There's a problem where you have the camera, the POV camera, but you also have the actors. So when it comes to sound engineering, you have a problem where we have to hear what the characters are saying, but maybe the camera wants to wander off and be all dramatic and stuff. So how do you deal with that?
That's a really good question. What? The New Thief was terrible. Okay, so yes. Okay, so how many? Everybody heard that question, right? The 3D. Okay, so really good question. Mainly depends on where the camera is in relationship to what's going on. The initial design/audio intelligent decision is to put the microphone, which is what is listening to the stuff that then appears on your speakers or your headphones, on the camera. So it starts on the camera, right? But then, oh my gosh, I can't hear what's being said, right? That is a mix decision and issue that needs to be taken care of by the engineer working on the game. There are two ways to deal with that. One, you can play with the distance of the camera only up to a point, right? You can't have the microphone, excuse me, you can't have the microphone. Ah! You guys rock. Thank you. We're not going to let him get us. You can move the microphone closer to the source of wherever the audio is taking place, and it will, obviously it will go up in the mix, but sometimes that might take away from other stuff that might be happening strategically in other places in a third-person view. So the way you treat that is you adjust the radii on the sounds themselves. Every sound has a max radii and a min radius, or max radius and a min radius. The min radius is the place where the sound reaches max volume, and then it's at max volume until, for the entire the volume of that sphere from that point on. Outward from that, it then gradually descends to 0, which is where the min radius exists. Okay, so when you play with the max radius and the min radius, and you have a logarithmic curve that represents how the volume changes, usually not linear, because for some reason that's not actually natural. Oddly enough, the natural distance attenuation factor is a logarithmic curve. So you have that curve, you play with the max and the min radius until such time, as well as the microphone position in relation to the camera, until such time as you hear the audio you need to hear. But there's one additional factor to that. There is the actual mix level within the bus. How many people here are familiar with what a bus is? Okay, great. So in mixing terms, a bus is just something you assign a group of anything. It could be effects, it could be a set of sounds, it could be a bunch of pieces of music or VO. So if you assign all of your VO into one particular bus and you're not hearing the VO, and then you've got your radii set properly so that they won't blow out if the camera moves around or does whatever it does within its own behavior zone. Now granted, that's another factor I'm going to get to in a second. Then you raise your mix bus up and down a little bit while you're playing the game. It has to be in real time. I don't care what game you're working on. There's lots of independent games, and there's lots of even not as big budget games where people say, we cannot do things in real time, and you need to play the game, write everything down, go back into your Wise or F mod and make your changes, and then do whatever it is. Then that's complete bullshit. Like you don't ask artists to go into Maya, then go into the game and back to Maya with all this data that they've written down. It's just crap. It's a complete waste of time. There's real-time tools that exist that enable you to change, mix levels, even if it's a number in Unity or Unreal, right? With a cue or with an audio object in Unity. So you have that thing to change as well. The last thing is, what I think you're talking about, is if the camera decides to go off and do something insane, right? Like suppose the camera leaves whatever is happening, it zooms way back, and you still need to hear the VO. Well, in that case, you need to adjust the mix so that it goes up enough in relation to the camera using, say, if it was Wise, it would be an RTPC piece of data that's linked to what the camera's XYZ coordinates, and that adjusts the mix level of whatever it is that's happening so that you can still hear that. It actually is a lot of work, and with Thief in particular, I happen to know that it went through a number of audio directors and a number of audio designers, all of which really didn't do that great a job. There was a lot of issues in terms of changing personnel on that project, and it ended up definitely not having, like for the first 3 Thieves, they were all mostly just managed and handled and done by Eric Brocious. And if you guys aren't familiar with Eric Brocious, he is a god among audio engineers in the game industry. He established essentially what I just said about wasting time. He was one of the first audio designers that stood up to producers and programmers and said, no, I'm not going to stand for that crap. I'm going to edit all these sound spaces myself. I am not going to let an artist dictate, what ambience is going to be in this level through 3D Studio Max. This is going to be me. He was one of the big, people that actually broke through those barriers of production and people trying to be cheap or people not caring about audio in the dev world, and he established the awesomeness that is the original Thief series audio standards. So that's a really long and roundabout way of answering your question, but did I answer your question? Yes. If you have specific questions, I can give you my email, and I didn't bring any cards, I'll just write it down, so yeah. Who's next? Anybody next want to grab the dangly thing? Here we go. Oh, we got 2. Awesome. This is great. Okay.
Hi.
What's your name?
Brian.
Brian? Everybody
Brian.
give a Colossus roar to Brian. Ah! Is that getting old? If it's getting old, we totally... Okay, great. I was going to say, there's people who are like, oh, please don't do the Colossus roar. Thank you. Cool. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
I do a lot of in-the-box work instead of working with like actual orchestras. And so my question is, one, do you have any virtual instruments that you like to use when you can't do the orchestra? And two, do you have any tricks that you have that that allow for like imperfections of attacks and things along those lines that make it so that that way it sounds more real? Like, you know, soundscape sounds, what's the word? Reverb. Reverb's big, but just anyway, just
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I work a lot in the box too, and you know, like it's sometimes there's cases where I absolutely, this is fun, and the game of putting the microphone back. As a matter of fact, you know what? Here, I'll tell you what. I don't care if it shorts out or if the union doesn't like it. We'll just put it right there. Okay, so. Preferred sound libraries that I use for instrumentation, like so, and I will walk you through. I started with East-West Quantum Leap Gold, and that is oddly enough still a base of operations for me in terms of just an orchestral set. And I'm going to start with orchestral sets. I am now starting to swap that out with Spitfire. Spitfire's pricey, right? Like, but you can still, like there's BML, which is just a modular series of like individual instruments and instrument sets that give you a ton of control. It actually has a couple of flubs with the players. There's some harmonics in a couple of the samples that they've recorded that you actually pick up if you keep using it. Not quite as much as there is in play. I know there's people who are like, oh my gosh, that cello sounded awful, and I could hear like noise in the concert hall, and I just can't use it. It's terrible, right? So I'm augmenting that with Spitfire, but as it happens, back in the days of Giga Studio, there were like one or two of these, and East West was one of them. Now there's a ton. There's Embertone, there's Spitfire, there's Berlin, there's like, you know, and there's things that are cheaper, there's things that are more expensive. My tip is to literally combine instruments and layer them. Like that's tip number one. So if you've got like a Marcato string section and you're going like this, and you're not getting nearly enough changes in the attacks or the velocities or the, like for example, you do velocity differently and you expect maybe to have a bit of a different texture in the actual sample of what you're playing so that it sounds more live and more realistic. Well, as it happens when I use Marcato with the Play VST, with East-West, I will augment that with some Spitfire stuff. Or heck, I mean, I think even Embertone, it doesn't really necessarily matter, but as you layer those things on and you play with the mix a little bit, it really starts to come together really well. Reverb, Play's reverb is okay, it's fine. If I need to use, and with Spitfire they recorded it in Air Studios, which really has such a natural, the way that it works isn't even so much reverb based. Like you change, I mean, you can literally activate close mic, like Decatree, or like 3 or 4 other mics. And so like I will mix in different mics to give me more of a tail or whatever kind of sense of reverb and space that I need. As far as other libraries go, if they just are somewhat flat or they don't have the proper reverb, I will build in Lexicon LXP, which is the cheap Lexicon. It's like $250, or if it's on sale, it can be like $175. And to me, even now, it is really the best algorithmic reverb I've still ever heard. I mean, Lexicon's amazing. Having said that, there's really good stuff that just comes with Cubase, like Revelation. It's awesome. Reverence is a great IR reverb that you can use. But yeah, so those are libraries that I use. There's some things that I cannot get in the box at all, and to this day, a solo saxophone. Like, as a matter of fact, Skitch. Where's Skitch? Is he here? Yes, there you are. He just played me a tune of his where he used was it a sax? Yeah. Damn motherfuckers. It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. God bless John St. John. He's not here this year. So yeah, the Skitch was just playing me something that I was just like, okay, that actually sounds like a live thing. Now I know that, I mean, Skitch knows the how to work your way around a sample library to give it that live sound, right? You need to practice with the elements, with whether it's key switching or whatever it is that you're doing, or whether it's like playing with the velocities within the actual geez, what am I thinking of? The lane that shows up where you adjust the. Yeah, CC data or automation lanes. Yeah, automation. The automation lanes. So a lot of times I will go into the automation lanes and do stuff. And so yes, so with those combination of factors, depending on your patience level, you can get an awfully live performance. Personally, I still hire live sax players if I need a decent solo sound, but like it's really down to your personal preference. So there you go. Yes. Who was next? Come on down.
Not a technical question about your discography. What I wanted to ask was, why don't your digital releases have liner notes or comments in them? They like exist in a vacuum where we know nothing. Example, Mod Collection 2. You've got this really great song on there, Mini Imp. It's like my driving under cloudless blue skies music. I love it. Apparently, it was a remix of a thing that Andrew Sega did, and I would never have known that if I hadn't randomly stumbled across it on the internet. Liner notes, something, dates, anything. I'm interested.
Holy shit! Oh, you can leave it on the table. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, see, these are my liner notes right here. There we go. Lots of nice, powerful liner notes all sitting in oblivion. Yes, okay. Hey, I didn't do liner notes because here's exactly why. Oh, you know what? If I put out my mod collection, I could make like maybe a couple extra $100 and I could really use a couple extra $100 right now. That's literally the thought process that went into that. I did do a mastering pass to make sure that they were all somewhat equivalent and that they were somewhat close to the way they sounded in Impulse Tracker, but I did not actually sit down and go like, okay, here's the impetus behind this tune. Having said that, since you asked for it, it does make me go, that might have been cool for you guys to have, right? So anyway, having said that, I completely agree, liner notes would be awesome. Let me start by at least personally explaining the whole thing behind the Andrew. Do you know what the entire story is behind Mini Imp? All right, you shall have the entire story. Yeah, the whole story is that I don't remember the name of the Andrew Sega song. Anybody here familiar with Necros? Andrew Sega? Okay. Andrew Sega is one of the godfathers of like American mod files. How many people here know what mod files are? Like the Amiga 500, Amiga 1000, Amiga 2000, and everything, MED, Pro Tracker, all that kind of stuff. Well, that is actually one of the places that I came from. I started in AdLib land. If you guys know Lazy Game Reviews? Okay. Guys, check out Lazy Game Reviews because it's really, really cool. The guy just actually unboxes an ad-lib and he has some cool stuff playing in the background. He's used Jazz Jackrabbit and Tyrion tunes for his videos, and I'm just like, are you coming to MAGFest? Because I'm a fan. So, the started in ad-lib land, went on to mods, and Andy Sega wrote a whole bunch of tunes from 92 to 93 up until, well, I don't know, maybe mid-90s, right? He started getting into Buzz Tracker, and I still think he uses Buzz from time to time, but he's starting to leave that tracking in general behind as well, which is kind of sad. So he wrote a tune that, and I will find it for you if you write your name down. Let me contact you later. I'll be happy to give you the exact details as to the exact song that I stole the sample set from, because the way that the way that mods would work is that you could literally, in Impulse Tracker, load up a tune, erase all of the actual compositional data, but keep all of the sample files. So then I'm like, I like these samples, and I'm too lazy to actually sample them myself from whatever, and I'm just going to use them to write a new song. Hey, it's a new song. You're not plagiarizing the tune. You're just ripping the samples. And he didn't really like people ripping his samples at the same time, But the way that I originally met him was I sent him a check for $200 because I loved his music so much. So that kind of got me in his good graces a little bit. He's like, well, geez, idiot, thanks. I really appreciate this. Before there was Patreon or before there was all this other stuff, I just sent him some money. He had a tune that was actually the drum track on it was from a Sting song. Still know nothing about me. How many people are familiar with that one? It's on 10 Summoner's Tales. It's one of the tracks that wasn't a hit necessarily. Is that Chris Taylor walking in? Everybody give a big round of, wait, no. Everybody say hi to Chris Taylor. I'm actually going to call this guy out right now because this is somebody you should applaud, because he started is it okay for me to put you on the spot like that? He started a group called Hidden Sound Test on Facebook, and before I even got into AdLib, I would tape stuff using a portable tape recorder. I would go into arcades and I'd tape stuff off the NES, and me and my buddy Jason would just geek out about it all day long. He would play me Metroid songs off of his microcassette recorder, and then I would, play him Ninja Warrior from the local arcade that I would rip that stuff off from. So Hidden Sound Test is literally a community dream of that. There's people that post like, and seriously, it's actually intention is to be non-standard. People don't post Mario. It's supposed to be things that are as obscure as you can think of. He will forgive things that are not as obscure, particularly if there's something unique or cool about them. There's other people that are like, no, you can't put that on there. I'm gonna be a Nazi about the rules and whatever it is. No, but exactly. He's like, yeah. But he's a lot more lax about that sort of thing. But he started it, so I'm going to put this down, and I want everybody to give him a round of applause for that. Seriously, look for it on Facebook if you are passionate about just like Superstar Soldier, the bonus tune from the beat from the actual sound test on that game that you want to you found on YouTube and you want to post there for everybody to listen to. That's what people do, and it's fun. It's perversely, nerdily fun. So, getting back to the explanation of what you were looking for is that Andy Sega wrote this tune that ripped a drum track from a Sting song, and he used a bunch of other stuff and made this cool little jazzy piece. So, as it turns out, Impulse was a demo party that was held by this guy GD, and I don't even remember his full name. Maybe he's actually here at MAGFest. So GD held this party up in New York, and he called it Impulse. It was a mini demo scene party. There were big ones that would take place like overseas in Helsinki, like Assembly, and the party, which was in Denmark, TP they called it, which is obviously it's a European thing, so they don't laugh when they hear TP. But I actually went to one of these things. They have raves, they have competitions where people write mods and submit them for people to judge. They have actual demos where there'll be like 64K intros and 128K intros and like 512K, and you get the idea. Essentially music videos made on computers by a bunch of geeks living in their mom's basement in Helsinki. It's really, that was the fundamental, start of the demo scene. And that's, so we went to the Impulse was a mini version of that, people just getting together at GD's house and writing tunes and having fun. So Brian Rudge, who happens to live up near Frederick, here in Maryland, was going to have a party of his own. We decided to call it Mini Impulse. So the song is called Mini Imp as a miniaturized version of Mini Impulse, and I took Andrew Sega's song and I redid the sort of thing, and people said it sounded like the intro to Alf, which is kind of funny. I didn't really see it myself, but when I went back and listened to it, I sort of saw the correlation. I wrote a happy-go-lucky tune just to get people to go to the party that were local and release the song. So that's the story behind that. So you'll get more of that. I'll figure out a way to put that on Bandcamp. So thanks for that suggestion. Who's next?
I'm actually kind of mad.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. What was your name? Robert. Okay. What's your name?
Bobby.
Bobby.
I'm actually mad at him because he kind of ruined half my question.
Shit!
Yes, you were. He was.
Bob Rush him!
Because I was going to go Siren.
Oh, dude.
We hung out back in the 90s. I was in tracks.
Well, Jesus Christ.
And so I was going to be like, so who is your favorite tracker and why is it Necros? But you've already answered that question.
Well, kind of, yeah.
And I remember GD and all that.
What was your handle?
Black Wolf.
Dude. Oh, man. This is my man right here. Black Wolf. Between him and Dark Wolf.
Yes.
And Cirrus, which is Brian Rudge, the guy that I was just telling you about. It's all a bunch of buddies, all releasing music on this IRC channel.
I still use Impulse Tracker to this day.
Oh, man. Have you checked out Renoise?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm starting
Renoise
to
is
use
a
that.
piece of tracking software. You can make mod files, and apparently it's awesome. It's a VST plugin as well. And dear Lord. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, what was your favorite demo from that time, and why is it not Little Green Man from Cosmic Free Music Foundation?
Why is it not Little Green Man? Flight, actually. That's a good one. What is my favorite demo? I think, I kind of explained the demo scene really briefly. And so, like, you guys can literally search demo scene, and it'll come up in Wikipedia, and you can look for the stuff and the content. I would say, oh, man, that's a really tough one. Because it's not Second Reality. That's the one that everybody says.
Not.
Man, I'm trying to think. Oh, probably Dope.
Yeah.
By CNCD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complex.
One of these parties was called NADE, North American International Demo Scene Competition, and Andrew Sega released a tune called Ascent of the Cloud Eagle. Is this hooked up to audio? Can I just get on the internet here? Hold on. Let me see. Why am I putting my mic up to it?
Yeah, I stole your samples, and I know that You stole Ascent to the Cloud Eagle sometime.
I stole Ascent to the Cloud Eagle. I would use Trinity samples that people
Yeah.
would use all over the place. Yes. Okay, let's see if this works because I want people to hear Ascent to the Cloud Eagle because
Yes.
it's good shit, people.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
like when people were. Oh, come on.
And the great thing about those is you could go in and see how Necros did it by opening it
Yes.
up. And I learned so much by like looking at your stuff and looking at his stuff.
I appreciate that. Okay, anybody know how to get past this? Get me out of here, does it say? No. Oh, I got it. I feel like I'm on the set of ER in 1992 with this Dell Latitude laptop. Okay, so technical details. Oh God, are you serious? Yeah, Internet Explorer, Edge. In the meantime, let's all do just. Actually, let's think of something other than Colossus War. Anybody got like an exclamation they can think of? What the frick? Let's do this, because I got my room number. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead and use it. There you go. Anybody got a cable? Please work, please work, please work, please work. Oh, God damn. Mother. Okay, seriously. And that's right. There's nobody sitting there sitting here that happens to have a. Oh, there you go. We got it. In all the glory.
The chants come in a few bars.
So that's basically a preview. We won't have you listen to the whole song, but seriously, imagine people just taking samples from wherever they can find them and making songs like this. Like half the time, this guy would make like dance tracks that people were just like, why is this not on the radio? Why are people not having this played in clubs? And so, yeah, as it turns out, Andy is part of a band called Iris. Anybody familiar with Iris band? They sound a lot like Depeche Mode. And they go playing in Europe, and they make amazing music. So Andy is the producer of that. Most of the music's written by Reagan Jones, which kind of sucks because I wish Andy would write more of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh man. So yes. Thank you, sir.
There was your trip down memory lane.
Yes, exactly. Thanks a lot. Anybody got any more questions? So many questions. Oh, good. Come up and take a mic. Tell me what your name is so that I can.
My name's Dean.
Dean.
In your earlier days when you were doing mod, you did something in PSM, Pro Tracker Sound Module.
Did I?
Yes, it was Jazz Jackrabbit, and it was used by Epic Mega Games. They also did Epic Pinball used that format.
Oh, within the game.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Do you know what tracker you used, or could you use anything to get that format?
For the original Jazz
Yes,
1?
yes.
Yeah. So what I used and what Robert used for the entirety of the Jazz 1 score was Scream Tracker.
Okay.
Yeah, so Scream Tracker was what came out of the Pro Tracker scene for PC, written by somebody that was a member of Future Crew. Okay. Future Crew was the demo group that did Second Reality, and eventually would go on to become Remedy Entertainment, which made Max Payne and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it was Scream Tracker.
All right. Do you know what you used to convert it from the STM to PSM?
There was the name of the guy was Josh somebody. So he essentially, all it was a guy that had drivers that would limit it to 4 channels, or 4 channels. So you could, Scream Tracker had up to 16. Yes, yeah, 16 channels, and but for Epic Pinball and for Jazz, it was just limited to 4 channels, and along with a little bit less in the way of hexadecimal information that would be in the control lane of each channel. So I don't remember the name of the actual drivers because it was actually, I believe it was just custom to Epic at the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I wish I could answer more, but this is keep them coming, man. I'm just gonna be like, no, I don't remember any of this. It was 20. It was a long time ago, of course. Next question. Somebody come down. Don't be shy. Come on. I'll answer this in a British accent. How's that sound? Shut the fuck up, motherfuckers!
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Sorry, that was meant for them, not you. What's your name?
Matt.
Matt. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I kind of want to pick your brain from your experience with AAA. On most games, what stage of a project did you enter in? Were you there from like the beginning, or did you kind of hop in at the end? I know a lot of companies do things differently.
Yes. This is kind of tough. So for the Epic stuff, that was like, say, Unreal. Nobody knew it was like the term AAA actually wasn't used in those days, but that was beginning to end in different capacities, because at the beginning it was mostly helping Carlo Vogelsang, who was the guy that did all the audio code for the Unreal Engine, actually develop the audio code or help design the audio code. I didn't actually code, but like I was the one that said like I can't just have 8-bit samples because we were only working with 8-bit samples at first in the Unreal Engine, and as you well know, as things start to fade with 8-bit samples, they go. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but this sounds like shit. We cannot publish an awesome Quake killer game with shitty sounding samples. So yeah, that was from beginning to end. For other things, like say the Gauntlet 7 Sorrows, I was audio director, but I also wrote some music and hired some other composers and did some sound design and hired a sound designer, and that was beginning to end of that project. The model for AAA typically has at least 1 to 2 senior people in-house. And it depends on, like EA, you'll have, definitely have an audio director. You'll probably have a music supervisor. And it depends, like Naughty Dog will have, Blizzard has 65 audio people just, on staff. So like for other companies like EA, depending on the studio, they'll have like at least a few people that'll all be in-house. There'll be a vocal supervisor, there'll be an audio director. And that'll be all throughout the entire life of the project in various capacities, right? It doesn't make it the most efficient model because there's always a point in time in which people need to figure out things to do that isn't directly working on the game because the content is still being generated, right? So the Hollywood model is a little bit different. You have an executive production company that usually doesn't consist of anybody audio. It's just the director, the producer, the executive producer, and a couple of other people. The executive production team. Let's do a Colossus roar. 1, 2, 3. Ah! I like the reverb. You guys like that fall off there? That was pretty cool. It's like you just sort of, you settle into the sound of your own voice and let it relax you, like ASMR, that Russian lady on YouTube? It does like this. Anybody know gentle whispering? I'm so glad you said that, Matt. That's my brother right there. Gentle whispering. Everybody go to YouTube, and there's this lady that's on there, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, my husband's watching porn. But no, it's not really like that at all. It's actually just a relaxation technique in binaural sound where you've got like this woman that like brushes a comb across something, or she'll just whisper sometimes in Russian, and it'll sound like this, and you'll tingle a little bit, and you'll wonder why. That's all called ASMR. It's a response nobody's really familiar with. But people are too nervous about it, and there's no medical explanation for it. So they're just like, it's all weird voodoo shit. Anyway, so back to AAA. Hopefully we won't have too much more of this yelling crap going on. We don't want to lose our vocal cords on day 1 of MAGFest, so we won't be doing this much more. They can do it all they want and die. So the AAA stuff really varies, but I can't say that I am the biggest proponent of anything except like a really sort of high up experienced senior person from the beginning of the project to the end that can establish pre-production requirements, production requirements, and post-production requirements. You should really try to keep it to somebody that knows how to schedule and knows how to operate a team and put the content where it needs to go and be able to budget and work with the producer and all that kind of stuff. So does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Awesome! We've got to have another question in the audience. There we go. I dig the outfit, man. What's your name?
Neil.
Welcome, Neil.
Or Mr. Kong, if you'd prefer.
Hey, no problem.
Wondering how you landed the coveted role of Tech Sergeant Kaplan in Deus Ex or Ancano in Skyrim. The most highly sought out roles, I'd imagine.
You can never defeat me.
Yeah, Skyrim was fun, but yeah, you're gonna hopefully hear more of that in Voice-a-Palooza if you're gonna go to the Voice-a-Palooza thing with Wes Johnson and all those folks. Okay, so how did I get Tech Sergeant Kaplan is what you're asking? Okay, I was audio director on that game. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the original Deus Ex. So I came in as audio director. Stan Nouveau in Dallas was technically more of an audio director than I was at the time, although I kind of came in at the tail end of Deus Ex after having written the score with Michiel van den Bos and Dan Gardape, and actually Brian Rudge, Cirrus, did one song in that but didn't get credited, which is bad, and I still feel bad about it, but he's still my friend. Tech Sergeant Kaplan was just a role that I got because there was no other actor that they could get at the time. They're like, hey, we've got this extra role that we need some help with. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do the lines for that character. So I did the lines for that character. For Ancano, funny thing, Mark Lampert started with us at Ion Storm in Austin. I had been hired first, and then I hired Todd Simmons out of, I don't remember the company that he came from. But Todd Simmons was the main sound designer on Deus Ex Invisible War, and then Mark Lampert was an assistant, he was a very junior sound designer. He was fresh out of college, but we loved the guy. He was really professional, super nice guy, never got mad at anybody for anything, and just did what people asked him to do, which was mostly editing VO. And we would have, since we had 30,000 lines of dialogue in Invisible War, he was in charge of that. So after Ion Storm split up and we all went our separate ways, I went to Midway, and I got a call from Emil Paguariaro, who happens to be the lead designer of a lot of Bethesda games now. I mean, he's a really talented guy. Again, super nice guy. He originally hailed from Boston. He called me up at Midway and said, hey, at Bethesda, we really need an audio guy. Can you come out? And I had just started at Midway. The team was great. We were working on a new RPG version of Gauntlet, which eventually became a crap version of Gauntlet. It wasn't that bad, really, but it went from these ambitions to like nothing because Midway. That's a funny story. Mark, I said, Emil, thank you for the invitation, but I got to pass because I just moved my family out to San Diego, and I dig the team, but I really appreciate it. So he called up Mark Lampert, and Mark Lampert then became the audio director on. Was it Morrowind? I think it was Morrowind, and then Skyrim, and then Fallout 4 and 3, and all of these amazingly huge meteoric games, which nobody deserves that more than Mark, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the guy worked his ass off. He's super. Shut up! He's super awesome guy. Really love him. Really love him. Anybody here familiar with the Grease Man, DC 101? Anybody grow up in the DC? Okay, yeah. Put that sitcom down where I'm talking to your sorry stinking. And I'm going to diverge just for a second. He's a guy that's a DJ for DC 101 that does these funny stories. And one of the funny stories is of a cop that pulls over a diplomat. And he's just like, imagine your shock and horror when you find out it's a no good stinking diplomat. And you go over there and you say, and you got his license, and you say, hey buddy, you sure your license ain't expired yet? And he turns on like this radio station from like Abu Dhabi or something. Ooh, and he's like, put that sitcom down while I'm talking to your sorry stinking. So he goes over to the car, you pull him out of the car, and you start hitting him as hard as you can. You're here as our guest, and don't you run this. And you hear this, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Just like I thought. You diplomats are like cue balls. The harder you hit them, the more English you get out of them. Funny DJ. Anyway, getting back to what you were asking. Mark Lampert, while he was at Bethesda, I had kept in touch with him, and he said, hey, we need some roles for Skyrim, and would you be interested in auditioning? And that was how, thank the maker, this oil bath is going to feel so good. I got the roles of Ancano and Ahmad Motier in Skyrim. So that's how that happened. God, I love these people. We're going to go over and shake their hands, kick the shit out of them. Who's got the next question? Who's got the next question? Oh, man. I remember it was kind of like this last year. I was hearing all this yelling and screaming, but hey, that's MAGFest for you.
Hey, so...
whoa, not yet. What's your name, young man?
Adam.
Adam!
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
So I grew up playing Jazz Jackrabbit 2 and Tyrion. So I've actually played pretty much every game that you've had an association with, which
Lord.
I thought was really interesting. So I was like, oh, I have to meet you. So I have two questions.
Ask away.
Okay, cool. Is there a story why you did the writing for Tyrion? Like, that seems very random to me. And just a more general question. I mean, you've done writing, you've done music, you've done voice acting. Are there any more hidden talents to you that we don't know about?
Well, as it happens, I happen to have a pair of white boxers with red hearts on them. I'm just kidding. So, good. These are some pretty good questions. The writing on Tyrion took place because that was the first project I'd ever worked on. I met Jason Emery, who did this awesome parallax scrolling background, which I was like, oh, I haven't seen anything like this since Shadow of the Beast for the Amiga. And so we took that in hand. I'm like, well, we got to have some sort of story, right? We got to have, something. It can't just be like So I wrote this extensive storyline, which Dank, who was Daniel Cook, he was ended up doing the art on Tyrion. Brilliant artist who worked on the Amiga, by the way. All the art that you see in Tyrion. By the way, how many people here played Tyrion? Yeah, it's free on Good Old Games, GOG.com. Go grab it. It's actually a fun shooter, and I'm saying that even though I say it myself. And after all these years, it's not too bad. God, you'd think that Lennon was over there. So what we did was we just gathered to this ragtag team of Battlestar Galactica game developers came, and they all decided, me and Jason essentially decided to take the demo that we had with the little mini story and present it to Epic. And so that just because I wanted there to be some semblance of a story, even though Dank laughed his ass off at it. There's actually a part where they talk about like one of the characters getting stolen at birth. Stolen at birth was something that Dan Cook loved because he was picturing somebody running into the operating room and taking this baby with all swaddled up and running out as fast as he could. Stolen at birth. So we had a good laugh about that when we were working in North Carolina on a role-playing game for the Unreal Engine that never saw the light of day. Robert Allen was assigned to be the producer. The guy did the music for Jazz Jackrabbit, and he ended up being a producer for Epic and Epic's sister company, Safari Software, which was supposed to work on cheaper versions of Epic games, but since Tyrion had such a good showing with the graphics, they made it a full-fledged Epic Mega Games published product. So I just retained the writing throughout and just essentially made what sort of was the story, but that was just, I believe, episode 1. The rest of the episodes were written by Jason, just because he enjoyed it. He thought that was fun. So that's that. Question number 2 that you had was what again?
What else do you do?
The hidden talents. Yeah. Geez, well, I can make a decent casserole. Not really. I mean, I love being a dad. Love being a dad. Kids are great and they're awesome, and we run around and play. And a funny thing that's not too personal at all is that one of my sons, my middle son Connor, who's 9 years old, we do. He's one of the 3 that still lets me tickle him. He's 9 now, but it's getting a little old for that. But he's still like, Daddy, I'm gonna run away. You better come get me. So I'll get him and I'll just tickle spot, tickle here, tickle there. And so we'll do the tickling, but we have quotes that we do while we do that. And so one of them is from the second Avengers movie. Anybody see? Yeah, people have seen the second Avengers movie. So for some reason I'll just come up with this random stuff, and one of them is from the second Avengers movie. I'll just be like, "You're stronger than her. You're smarter than her." And he loves that. He's just laughing his ass off while I'm doing that. And then he goes, "You're smarter than her." And so, anyway, I love that stuff. That's great. And I'd like to think that I try to make him happy and prepare him for the insane world they're about to go into. But yes, no, it's mainly I'm getting into Bob Ross style painting, oil painting, which I highly encourage. Did you ever do the Twitch thing where they just did nothing but Bob Ross it is so therapeutic just to watch that shit. It's just really relaxing. So yeah, I'd say mainly music, VO, sound design, the occasional bit of management when somebody needs some assistance with consulting on something. So yeah, thanks for asking. Who's next? Come up and take the microphone. It's all quiet over there. It's 8:15. We still got 15 minutes left. Okay, cool.
I wanted to ask what happened to Jazz Jackrabbit 3. There's a soundtrack, and then there's no game.
Oh, I will give you, yes, okay, that is an excellent question. I am happy to tell the story of Jazz Jackrabbit 3. It's a long, tragic story tale of blood and death. Not really. But it is actually kind of fascinating. So, Dean Dodrill, who did almost the entire game of Dust and Elysian Tale, boy, we had it out a little bit on Jazz. That was kind of fun. He went to me and Jason and said, we need a programmer, and Alex, you want to do some music? I even did some 3D Studio modeling. I modeled a coin with a carrot drawn in it, all by myself. It was really kind of scary. It was just like this octagonal sort of stop sign that I extruded and applied a gold texture to, and it rotates in the game. So we, again, just like writing, I just pinch hit in a couple of different places. But Dean did most, the animation of Jazz, the modeling of Jazz, all this other stuff, and a ton of level design. We came up with what was a pretty cool demo, and we threw it to Cliff Blazinski, and he got really excited about it. He was like, okay, we'll do Jazz. And now when I see him, of course, he's super jaded, and he said, nobody's going to like it. They're all going to say something mean about it, and they're all going to want what they want, and I'm not going to be able to do the game. I'm like, no, do the game you want to do, and yes, you will get a ton of shit from it, from God knows where, Gamersgate, or who knows, right? But you just make the game that but you make the game you want to make, and haters going to hate, right? Just do what people that are going to enjoy it are going to enjoy it. Anyway, I'm a little sore about that, because I wish he would do a Jazz 3. But he's doing... What's the name of that game? Loose Can't Know. I can't remember that. I mean, it's Boss Key, but what's the name of the actual game? It's like something to do with like jumping or gravity or whatever. Anyway, so God bless Cliff, man. He's actually the one that brought me into the industry, because like the demo that we showed Epic, like Cliff is the one that got excited about it. So he got excited about Jazz 3, and he was just like, hey, let's do this as an Epic game. Let's make this an Epic game. It was like, that's great. But like, as we got emails saying like, you all need to move to North Carolina. And we were like, can't we just, do what we used to do and collaborate, from wherever it is that we are, and have like a producer, just like the old time Epic days. And exactly, I mean, how's all that stuff's gonna work? So they still agreed to have us do it remotely, but they weren't going to be the ones that were going to publish and really put the driving forces behind it. So they sent out Jay Wilbur to have us meet with God Games and Mike Wilson in Austin, oddly enough. And we went to go meet with those guys, and there was an office building that was in a church, and there was these marketing guys putting helmets together for a Viking game. I guess it was Rune. I guess God Games published Rune, that was originally done by Raven or somebody like that, I think. Anyway, so we got there, we had the demo, and Mike Wilson is watching the demo, and Jay Wilbur, of all the things you could say, like leans into Mike and says, yeah, for the marketing, we're going to need the full 1.2 million. And I'm like, this is like the business mastermind behind like Epic and id? What the fuck? Seriously, he's just watching this game for the first time. Yeah, we're gonna need the full $879 billion right now. Yeah, I'll take a check. Yeah, this is hot shit. I did it all myself. Yes, I wrote that. Yeah. Anyway, so like that deal never materialized, and so essentially, the game never got made. We never got funding for it. We just for some reason just decided not to shop it anyplace else, particularly because it would have needed permission from Cliff, and I guess that was the only avenue in order to get that permission. So it went into a demo, and people became incredibly frustrated about it, and people are still asking to see another Jazz, but Cliff is probably very hard-headed about it. And the rights are owned by Epic, so Epic is also very business-wise between Mark Rain and Jay Wilbur. It's kind of a tough nut to crack. They are great at protecting their IP, but from the flip side of that perspective, it's just like, oh, great. So all of this stuff is going to just sit in the can, and nothing's ever going to happen to it, and these guys are just going to be assholes about it. Well, you're right from that perspective, and from Epic's perspective, they are only going to do something when they can make it, unbelievably amazing, and like the next Mario killer or whatever, right? So it's sad. But it was fun to work on, and it's still getting attention. So they do. Write to Epic, like bombard them with stuff, because yes, between that and some of their other properties, why not have it on Good Old Games? Another thing that's not on Good Old Games is No One Lives Forever. Anybody like that game? Ain't that just shitty? Yeah, that's terrible that people can't still enjoy things that have been long gone and could potentially even generate some new revenue for the IP holders. That's just weird. I don't get it. Oh, it is. Yeah. And John, what's his name? There was a guy that was like in charge of like a jazz fan site for John McClellan. I don't know if he's still doing it. Maybe not. But he had like a jazz fan site. There's still a Tyrion fan site that's just sitting there with like still somehow being kept alive. It's pretty amazing. I think we've got time for at least one more. Is anybody?
Don't you talk to me about responsibilities. You're a weak glob of grease. Now come out before somebody sees you. Secret mission? What plans?
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Nick.
Nick.
I guess it was kind of already answered in the last question, but someone wanted me to ask for you, just like, if there was a new Jazz Jackrabbit, would you want to compose for it and work on it and all that?
No, not at all. I'm just kidding. Yes, I would really jump on that. That would be amazing. So tell them to go bug Cliff and get the rights for it at least, and then just go do a Kickstarter and raise $1 million, and we're off and running. Yes. Anybody here play Elite Dangerous? Yeah, I still haven't played that one. There's a lot of Kickstarters, and wasn't Elite like a Kickstarter game originally? Or no. Frontier just decided to take it upon themselves to do it. Okay. Okay. And somehow they had the money for it. So. Well, what I'll do is real quick before we cut off. Anybody got something they're dying to ask? Because I can do like an impersonation of Tim Sweeney and Cliff and like a typical day at Epic way back in the day. Okay. Okay, so Tim Sweeney, he's a really smart programmer, but like when you talk to him, he's like, and then like if he gets like really busy on something, and he'll be like, oh no, I'm doing this binary tree thing, so get the fuck out of my office, and then he will write a sign that says stay the fuck away in Sharpie, and he will tape it to his door. But he's like the nicest, most meek, dorky guy, and like Cliff used to make jokes about his striped socks that he would pull all the way up. So like one day, like Cliff goes and leaves like some striped socks on Tim Sweeney's desk. So Tim, like Cliff, I'll walk into what was like sort of like this not jungly, it was like this little pod with windows on it there where Cliff and Arjan Bruce, who they're both working at Bosky now. Arjan was the lead programmer on Jazz Jackrabbit 1 and 2, and so they were both working in this room, and so I would go, hey, Arjan, that looked really good. And he's like, oh, you're the first person to pronounce my name right. And then Cliff would just be like, oh, that's great. I've been trying to do it right this whole time, Arjan. So then, and he says like, hey, Alex, when I give a bunch of bugs to Arjan, you want to know what he does? So if anybody knows what Cliff looks like, just picture Cliff doing that. He actually did that, and that was actually pretty funny. We thought it was pretty good. Let's see, some other things that happened that are just the most bizarre stories I've ever heard. So George Sanger, the Fat Man, at one point was giving a talk, and how many people, anybody here read The Fat Man on Game Audio, his book that he's come out with? Okay, so a couple people are familiar with that, but like at the same time, he was at a convention, and he was eating with like a bunch of people, and somebody started choking, and so he went over, gave the guy the Heimlich maneuver. This thing popped out. Like everybody was like, there was this group of Japanese businessmen that were like really insulted or to even be there. They thought America was like lower than they were, or whatever the impression was that they were giving. I don't know if that was the case, but they saw George do what he did, and they like started applauding. They were like, oh my gosh, America's awesome. Look at this guy in the cowboy outfit just saved this person's life. That's amazing. So this guy walks up to George, and he says, he hands him a card, and he says, here, I want to work with you. And so like George says, oh, okay, well, thanks a lot. It says you're a producer? And he's just like, that's right, I'm a producer in Hollywood. Come and see me when you got a script. And George is like, well, I don't really do writing. Like I write music, and I do sounds for games. And as the guy's walking out, he turns around and goes, that's okay, you can't write a movie without a script. And he just turns around and walks out the door. So George is sitting there like, what? That's a standard sort of GDC story where you encounter somebody and they have no idea what you do, and vice versa, and they're just totally clueless. That happens on an odd basis. So let's see, anything else that's kind of bizarre? Yeah, kind of weird. Oh, yeah. Neil Nicastro at Midway, who was the president of Midway for a certain period of time. There was a game that was it was NHL hockey. I don't remember. It was some game that was going over in terms of its budget and its production. And Neil Nicastro was getting a little bit upset about it. And the way that he decided to tell the team about this was, like, they're trying to explain why they're going over budget, and they've got this PowerPoint presentation. All the executives are in the room, and I don't think the stockholders or the head of the board is there or anything. But Neil stands up and just goes and just like turns around to the team and says just like, "You guys, if you don't get this fucking game out on fucking time, I'm gonna tie fucking stones on your feet and throw you all in the fucking river." And he runs out of the room and slams the door. True story. But then like people are sitting there in stunned silence, and they're kind of scared. It's like, is he really going to do this again? Because Midway, like we also do stuff for like slot machines and everything, and so that's connected to the mob. And I really don't know if that's how's that going. What am I going to do? I'm going to die. So but then after about a minute, the door opens again, and he goes just like, "But if you get this game out on time, I will shower you with gold. I will get you whatever you want, food, women. You tell me what you need, and it's yours." And then he runs back out and he slams the door again. So, president of a multi-million-dollar video game company, ladies and gentlemen, that really happened. All right. Wait, do we still have time? Yes, we got 8:28. All right. Oh, man, let me think of something. Dear God. Something funny. That should have been my closer. Other than RJ and Bruce and Jason. Oh, I got one. Okay, all right. Jason Emery, my dearest friend of many, many years. He's a great programmer. He's working at PopCap right now. We were working at Epic finishing up Tyrion. And the way that Epic would do things in those days is that they would have an office in Rockville, Maryland, and that they also had a little house that they would put developers up in, like the people that did Age of Wonders and a bunch of other games back in the day. And we all would walk to the office because it was within walking distance, but it was like a mile or so. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, it is. Microsol is a reference to Microsoft. That was an idea that Arturo Sinclair, who was one of the artists on the game, came up with. He's like, it sounds a lot like Microsoft, and everybody will think it's funny. And we were like, yeah, I guess it's the big evil, empire type company, and so like we'll make it Microsoft. So Jason, we're all walking to the office, and the whole time we had been working there, we had been, in order to eat, they had been ordering Domino's pizza, and we had been drinking water out of the water buffaloes with plastic cups. So we're about halfway there, and suddenly Jason, who's walking next to us, just takes off sprinting. It's not like anybody was chasing him. We were just like, what just happened? He didn't say anything. He's not like, okay, I don't get it. So we get to the office building, and we go upstairs to the third floor, which is where Epic is, and we're just like, where's Jason? Because he's not there. We're like, what? There's no Jason. Okay, he just ran, and he's not at Epic. What's the deal? So we're like, okay, maybe he had indigestion from all the pizza and all the, the crap food we've been eating, the dev food we've been eating here. So Daniel Cook, who's with us, the artist on the game, he goes into the bathroom, checks the bathroom, there's nobody there. Maybe he only made it to the second floor. He goes down to the second floor, checks the bathroom, there's nobody there. So, okay, well, logically, he would go to the first floor bathroom if he was in that much of a hurry. He goes down to the first floor, and he peeks in, and he sees Jason's feet in the first stall. So he says, Jason? And so he hears this voice, just leave me alone. Go away, leave me alone. So he closes the door. and finally, about an hour later, Jason comes up and said, yes, I ran, but I didn't actually make it to the office. And we're like, what'd you do? Well, there's the woods. He couldn't even make it to the office. So if you're working for somebody that's constantly ordering Domino's, just be aware that you're probably going to end up doing a 100-yard dash, not making it to wherever you need to go. So, yeah. Funny story of indigestion there. All right, y'all. Having said that, it's dinner time for all you. Just to give you a really good start to your appetite. Well, I want to say thanks to everybody for coming. And at 9 o'clock, I am going to be part of a Making Mag Friends panel with Will Roger, Bonnie Bogovich, Spencer Bainbrick, and Lauren Travia, I believe. So that's just going to be all talking about our respective points in the industry and how you actually meet people. So Thanks, y'all.